Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Welcome to Life List, everybody. Good to be with you today. We are back with another episode here with Molly Brown producing and my co-host, Alvaro Jaramillo. This is George Armistead. How's it going today, Alvaro?
Hey, it's going pretty well. You know, it's actually really nice and sunny out here. We haven't had much sun out in my part of non-sunny California. It's a, stereotype that it's always sunny out here, not on the coast near San Francisco. It's pretty foggy and cold in the summer, but today is like a awesome day. Just great. And, I want to get out there and enjoy the sun in a little bit after we finish up here.
Nice. Well, one place where it is always sunny, Alvaro, is Philadelphia.
That's right. It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
It is true. There's seasons of television footage to attest to that. And it's actually a beautiful weekend here. Usually this time of year it's just kind of brutally hot and humid. And we've talked about how you get all, it feels like you're walking through soup outside. It's so humid and no wind or anything. And you take a shower and sort of the whole toweling off process seems to warrant another shower itself. But it's actually been beautiful the last few days, really mild. And even some signs of early bird migration so far.
Oh, yeah. Hey, so I got to ask you, so right now it's, we're recording this in early August. I've lost track being on the West Coast with the whole cicada thing. So is it over? Is it done? How long does it last? Did you hear him? Did you see him?
Yeah.
Did you have a cicada experience, given that it only happens every so often?
Yeah, man. Next time's 2038. Better start planning. Yeah.
I'll make my bookings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm ashamed to say, I had actually never been to see this spectacle before. I did do it, just kind of before they quieted down. It's pretty much, it's been over now for over a month, I think, probably 5-6 weeks, something like that. And, we, here in Philly, we're kind of right on the coastal plain, and it seems like coastal plain and east, and there's not a whole lot of cicada action. I am not an expert on these things, but I did go to see them and learned a little bit. But I think it seems like the Piedmont, old forested Piedmont areas that have never been paved, and there's pockets of these things, and where they are, they're like super abundant, and then where they're not, they're just not. It's not like from what I understand, it's not like you see one or two around. It's like there's either a gazillion or zero. So we went to this place out in Montgomery County. Me and Kristen went, and we were like getting like a mile from the spot, and I was like, I wonder if we could hear him like right here, and I rolled down the window, and it was like they're making like all sorts of crazy sounds. and we just drove a little bit further, walked around a bit, and they were they were everywhere. And we were kind of on the backside of the peak. But it was really beautiful, cool experience. It does make you wonder what it would have been like 100, 200 years ago when there's, a lot less pavement, a lot less pesticides, and the volume of these things must have been like terrifying back then,
Yeah. I'm no cicada expert, but I play one on TV kind of thing. And did you know that all the periodic cicadas, right, come out on prime numbers? The years are all prime numbers, so they're not divisible by another number other than themselves or one. And all periodic cicadas, I think, are in North America. There are none anywhere else in the world, as far as I know. And maybe somebody could write an angry letter and tell us that, no, indeed, in one corner of Australia or something. But the thought is that their prime numbers, they settled on these, 17, 13, I guess it is. And maybe there's like a 7. I forget how many of them there are, because that way no predator can actually sort of get in sync with them by having sort of their own population sort of cycle in a way that, that could be in sync. It's actually really rare. It's like 1 in 96 years. I don't know what it is, but it just won't happen mathematically. It's hard.
Wow.
For that to happen. So it's kind of like this whole thing where biology meets math meets birding. I'd love to see it. Like it's one of those things that, it's such a crazy, weird event. Seems much more exciting to me than these moon phases that people go nuts about. It's like, this is the blue and there's like the fire moon. It only happens. It's like, you know what? Kind of looks like a full moon to me. But these cicadas,
Alvaro,
that sounds great.
You've just infuriated the moon people, Alvaro. They're going to get
moon people.
Yeah, we're going to get very angry letters.
I know, but I love the moon people, but
they're good people.
They're making too much out of some of these moons.
That's true.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the Moonbird a little bit later on, but the cicadas were real cool, and even got to kind of have one like right at eye level as it was, sounding off, and got to see its like whole body flexing while it was making these crazy sounds, and it had kind of like a real predator, Alien versus Predator vibe that it was putting out there. I love that these ones are called Brood X, Brood 10. And I just kept calling them Generation X by accident. I was like, it's like Brood 10, Brood X, but I was like, Generation X, I'm Gen X, it seemed logical, and I kept forgetting, but I was corrected pretty routinely by those more in the know. But it was cool, man. It was way cool.
I just wondered if you got to experience that. So that's cool. So, I guess I missed it. I should be alive next time it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Go and see it.
Only 17 years away.
I know. Oh my God, 17 years.
I know.
It's a long time. I should have really planned on this. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, what have you been up to? Didn't you just wrap a boat trip like today?
Actually Saturday and Sunday. So that today's Monday. Both days I went out to the Farallon Islands, which are about 27 miles from shore, to go see the breeding seabirds and also whales, the whole deal. And the migrant seabirds are starting. The Jaegers and the Sabins gulls are really kicking in now. So it was great. Yesterday was actually just beautiful weather, flat, calm. It got sunny in the afternoon. And, we had one situation where there were maybe 50 humpback whales, maybe more, and groups of 8 to 12 whales lunge feeding together, their heads coming out and the birds all around and tufted puffins flying in and out. And it was just, I was just thinking, wow, today's one of those days where I feel like the luckiest person on earth to be doing this as a job. There are other days when the weather really is, kind of gnarly out there, and you're getting spray in the face, and you're just trying to keep people motivated. Say, hang in there. We'll get to these islands. It's going to be great. And then, this was one of those days where it was just so fantastic. Everything was going our way: weather, birds, whales, the whole deal. So I'm still kind of like on a buzz from that day.
That's awesome.
And Saturday was awesome too, but Sunday was, even calmer. So,
man, that is sweet.
Yeah. Murs. There
lots of murs.
Thousands of murs. Love that. And their population's increasing. So there's over 300,000 murs there, and every year there's more still. So some, it's kind of a nice success story. We're always hearing about all the negatives, right? So definitely murs and northern fur seals are on the increase there. They're, the rhinoceros auklets returned. They weren't nesting there for a long time. They were extirpated, and they've been back for a couple of decades now. But again, moving up. So it's great.
Nice. That is very cool. I haven't seen a northern fur seal in some years. nice to hear that they're on the uptake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Alvaro, one thing I was like, as we're speaking, I'm getting like all these alerts on my phone about the Olympics. And I must confess, I have not watched a second of the Olympics so far this year.
Me neither, actually, other than I was at a friend's house yesterday and they were watching, so I was kind of, I've just been busy, but real busy. And it's a cool thing, the Olympics. I think COVID and the whole deal's also kind of tempered it a little bit. And, the interest, because, there's not huge crowds out there, but, we were, we were kind of talking earlier. It's like the Olympics, we felt like, there should be like a bird Olympics, kind of like, these are superhumans right out there that are running fast and jumping high and doing things that are incredible to us regular humans. But there are birds that actually do crazy stuff that's nuts even for a bird, right? So these are the Olympian birds. So, I mean, who would you pick? I mean, just an informal list. Where do we start? I mean, obviously there's the peregrine falcon, super fast, but people know that. But how about these sort of more hidden away Olympians, the ones that,
sure,
are out there?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were talking about this before and I was kind of, and you mentioned the peregrine falcon, but did you know, like we all get asked what our favorite bird is all the time, right? Especially people that don't really, watch birds that much. They'll be like, what's your favorite bird? Or, because they figure whatever that is has got to be amazing, and you're not going to say like, I don't know, like some kind of little Cytalopus tapacula or something, or,
right.
I don't know, but
house wren.
Yeah. Which are cool. House wrens are cool. Yeah.
They are, but they are kind of like brown.
Yeah. They're just kind of, they kind of do their little thing. But for years, for a while, I'd be like, there's too many to choose from. I do not have a favorite bird. And that was a deeply unsatisfying answer.
You do it in that voice?
I do. I do not have a favorite bird. Yeah. Trying to sound very sort of, Reverend Lovejoy,
right.
Professorial kind of. So I would say it just like that. And people
ask in this voice, they go, George, what would you pick for your favorite bird? Then you do that voice. The
exactly.
Voice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. But yeah, so and then I decided I better come up with a favorite bird. They can't just tell people I don't really have one. Blah, 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 blah. So I started saying the blue jay was my favorite bird, and I do love blue jays. They are awesome, awesome birds. They got a sweet hairstyle. They're well marked. They're migratory. They're social. They're smart. They're kind of little jackasses sometimes, but they're fun. They got a lot of attitude, spunky. They got a lot going for them. But that almost felt like, a lot of people were like, okay, well, he likes the blue jay, whatever. So I recently decided that the golden eagle is now my favorite bird.
Wow.
This may change. I should warn you.
Not the American bald eagle?
Not the American bald-headed eagle, no. But the golden eagle, the Aquila chrysotis. I think I said that wrong, scientific name. But yeah, I mean, most widespread eagle in the world?
I would say it's the eagle. Like it's the one that when somebody gave eagles their name, right? That's why it's Aquila, right? It's the Latin for eagle. It's just the eagle that's, in Europe and North America, the Europeans, the Germans have it as their symbol and so forth. Multiple countries, even like Mexico.
Mexico's one.
Got, even though that's a misidentification, but we can get to that later.
Yeah, but let them slide on that. Yeah.
Yeah, let them slide.
Yeah.
I'm not going to offend the whole country of Mexico today.
No, we've already taken out the moon people. Let's stop there. And they are. And like, I think the ones in Central Asia are like the biggest ones, right? The Eagle Huntress, that movie everybody loved. I still haven't seen it, actually. My nephew's like furious at me. He loves that movie. And supposedly they fend off wolves from carcasses they eat. And there's ones that have been known to, slash up pronghorns on the, these are birds that are really taking prey that are kind of beyond their means and just, incredible. But what made me think of that is when you said peregrine falcons are known for being the fastest bird in the world, they apparently have recently clocked golden eagles going over 200 miles an hour in a dive.
What?
Yeah. And that knocked my socks off. Yeah. I checked. It was on the All About. Bird. Yeah, it's a big bird. And, they like cliffs and they need a little tailwind to achieve that. But, that's a fast bird. And, it's just got so much going on. So that is another Olympian of sorts. But, of course, there's a bunch. There's a bunch of them out there.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me, actually, the last few days has been the little common murre chicks. So common murres, they hatch, they're at the nest, and they fledge, they leave the nest before they can fly. These chicks are pretty small, half the size of the adults, maybe less. And then they swim out, like they jump off the cliffs and they swim with their dad. So their dad takes them out to sea because it's safer to be out at sea than at the cliffs. So we've been coming back multiple days from these islands to Half Moon Bay to the port. We are 29 miles away from the main colony, and there are multiple little chicks following the adult. And I'm thinking, those little tiny birds have swam, like they haven't flown. They've actually swam all day, all night. And some of them have probably just fledged in the last few days. So they're just,
right,
swimming Olympians
right.
To me.
They step out their front door for the first time and go 29 miles over the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's after like diving head first,
right,
like
down
doing
a cliff.
A high dive, down a cliff. Like it's wild. And then penguins, of course, are master swimmers. And there's some now info on some of these king penguins nesting in southern Chile that are going out to the middle of the South Pacific, the sub-Antarctic Pacific, just in the middle of nowhere, swimming out there before coming back to Tierra del Fuego. And you think, oh my gosh, I thought it was exciting, when we learned about some of these sharks migrating halfway across the ocean, or, the leatherback sea turtles moving through from Southeast Asia to California. But to think these penguins are swimming thousands of kilometers, out to fish it's crazy to me, because they're not flying. Flying seems easier than swimming to me, it's crazy. So the swimming,
it's funny because you can do one, but you can't do the other, to my knowledge, at least.
No, I'm not. Like I've never, maybe if they put me in one of those cannons, those cannons that shoot people, like back in the circus days, I could have flown then. Yeah. That would have been my time. Yeah. But I never joined the circus.
Yeah, I bet you would have been good at that.
So I swim, and I'm a bad swimmer. I'm kind of like, I wouldn't get off the Farallon Islands, even a mile. I'd be dead.
Yeah, you would not. You'd make a bad.
So that's why I'm so impressed.
Yeah,
I'm a bad baby mer. Yeah. No, so that's wild. Then we have those birds that are, I think most people have heard now about the bar-tailed godwits that fly from Alaska all the way down to New Zealand in
7,000 miles nonstop in like 6 days, basically. It's pretty ridiculous. Right. Out over the open ocean.
Over the open ocean. And then you think, okay, well, all of those bristle-thighed curlews are doing something shorter, but still some of them are flying nonstop, maybe to these little atolls in the South Pacific. Wandering tattlers, every one of these wandering tattlers that winters in Hawaii is doing a single flight to Hawaii from wherever they're breeding, in Alaska or the Yukon or what have you. And to me, that it blows my mind that there's multiple species, some of them unrelated, that are doing these crazy nonstop flights. Yeah. And then that all the swift stories, right? You've been hearing the last few years of these crazy swifts that don't even stop.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You mean like until they breed again? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I have heard about
so
this.
They common swift, alpine swift, and I think also now black swift, they're thought to leave their nesting sites and migrate south. With the common swifts, it's down to Africa, for example. And that includes even the Asian common swifts. They go to Africa, so they fly all the way across Asia and down Africa. And in the non-breeding season, they just stay in the air. They don't land.
They're
never
just
roost.
Flying around. They continue
never
at
roost.
night to go hurtling around just kind of effortlessly.
Right. And some of them apparently might, in real bad weather day, once in the winter might actually settle down, somewhere. But still, that doesn't take anything away from the fact that they're in the air almost their entire life.
That's crazy.
And I'm thinking, that's nuts. That's an Olympian. If I ever,
I remember reading about sooty terns kind of doing something like sooty terns that like leave the nest area. They'll go and winter, in some body of water. I think the ones I was reading about were maybe the Tortugas ones, and they were thought to winter in like the Gulf of Guinea. And they'd spend a couple years there as youngsters before returning to breed. And they basically didn't really land. The thinking was that they just kind of cycled around out there at sea the whole time. I don't know. They may have modified their thinking on that since then. But
yeah. And there are other Olympic feats, like if you've ever seen an X-ray of a kiwi with its egg, in there. The kiwi egg relative to its body size.
Right. It's like a third or something crazy, right?
A third.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine that would be, like a woman giving birth to a 40-pound baby,
Yeah.
It's sort of like crazy.
It's really
that's an Olympic feat.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
maybe that's why kiwis are endangered. It's like I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's just, I'm done. Egg's too big, But and then you think too of how many other things. If we started like we probably don't have answers to. What is the fastest or the highest jumper of any bird? Right, like without using the wings. Like I wonder if obviously an ostrich probably can jump pretty high.
They must have some serious ups with those. They got some gams, those guys.
But how about Roadrunner, right? A Roadrunner, the speed it goes at relative to its body size and the jumps that they do, when you see them like jumping on some food, it's crazy.
I had a friend recently saw a Roadrunner take a siskin in Arizona. Like, how crazy is that? That can't happen that often.
Yeah. No, we probably could make like different
categories.
Different categories, right, of Olympic stuff, like biggest nest, right, for body size, probably the, hammerkop or something in Africa or what have you, it's like it's just birds are doing amazing things. So I was thinking, Olympics, pretty cool, but birds are way cooler, doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, when you mentioned the swifts crossing all of Asia, that reminded me of the northern wheat ears, right? That breed up in Alaska. Those do a similar thing, sort of, right? I mean, they land a bunch of times, but supposedly the ones in Alaska, they winter in like North Africa and further south, and they cross basically in all of Asia before getting there. It's something, it's over 9,000 miles.
And some of the common cuckoos as well in Asia will go to Africa rather than migrating to southern Asia, sort of the temperate Asian breeding cuckoos. And that's a long way to go. And with that east-west migration, is something we don't think about much in North America or the Americas, because everything kind of goes north-south for the most part. I mean, sure, some of the warblers that are up in British Columbia have a southeastern component to their migration, but not like these Asian birds that have just masses of longitude that they cross to get to their wintering areas. Birds are up to all sorts of hijinks.
Yeah, one of the ones I like to think about too is how high, like in elevation, I want to be specific there, in elevation do birds go? The people have talked about, I think it's bar-headed geese in Asia that cross over some of the highest parts of the Himalayas, and where there's basically almost no other life up once you get up that high. You might as well be on Mars. But these things are making like incredible passages over just incredibly high mountains, and
and there's a little gray bird in the Andes that used to be known as the white-winged duca finch that is now being renamed glacier finch, right? And one of the things it does, some of the populations actually nest on ice. They make their nests way up high in the Andes in glacial ice. So the nest is not on a rock. It's not on the ground. It's actually on the ice. And it's like, that's pretty cool too.
Wow.
There's got to be a category for that.
Yeah, really.
It's a good name too. Glacier finch.
That is cool. Yeah. It would seem maladaptive to nest on the ice, like you would think if you're trying to incubate eggs, the ice would be about the last place you'd want to do it. But hey, if it works,
Yeah. I don't know. I've never seen it happen. I've seen pictures of it, but it must just be that the predation rates are so low in that habitat that it's worthwhile, So it's sort of ice nesting.
Yeah.
There's these big ice fields, the huge glaciers in southern Chile. They call them the southern and northern ice fields. I think just, they're actually continental glaciers that are out there. And I met a guy who trekked across one of them, and he said he was in the middle of this ice field, like there's white everywhere, nothing. And there was a kestrel sitting in the middle of the ice, just sitting there.
Wow.
And it's like, what's that doing?
Yeah. Well, and you could talk about birds, the most isolated birds in the world, like once you get up to the true North Pole, supposedly, there's not much up there once you get really close to the pole. But my understanding is if you whatever gaps of water you hit around, the further north you get, like Fulmar is one of the few things you can get, pretty high up in the Arctic Circle there. And, I don't even know what in the South Pole, what else there might be.
South Pole, the two southernmost breeding species are actually Antarctic petrel and South Polar skua. They actually breed further south on these cliffs that are ice free because they're cliffs, so that the snow doesn't accumulate, and they're breeding in these spots that are relatively close to the pole, I guess, and farther south than any emperor penguin.
See, that's an Olympic bird right
that's
there.
Cool.
Yeah. And also
and then,
just
those
amazing
South Polar skuas and then they fly, the skuas and also do all that. Then they fly across the entire world.
Yeah, exactly.
To California or to
North Carolina.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Those things are nuts.
Yeah.
I always say that when you see those things flying around, they remind me of like a big old Rottweiler. They just look like a big, sort of goofy bully of a bird.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think of Fulmars that you mentioned, like bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
They've got that thick neck, and kind of, So I try to use dog analogies for identification with people on boat trips, and they kind of get it. Yeah, I see it. Or it's sort of, it's easier to say, oh yeah, it's more like a little bulldog shape.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, I get it. Rather than try to describe all the bits and the head shape and all this.
Now, of course, the famous bird Olympian that everyone always talks about is the Arctic tern, right?
Right.
Yeah, they do the crazy polar migration twice a year. That's probably the most famous one.
Right. And it's still like, now that they've done, they've tracked Arctic terns with, satellite tracking, it is still the longest. They used to always be sort of assumed to be the longest, but now it's like documented to be the longest migration.
50,000 miles plus annually.
Right. And then they live a long time. So if those birds are doing that 20, 30 times, they're actually going distances that are so great that it's more than going back and forth to the moon. moon people. Hey, see,
Yes.
got the moon in there for the moon people. I think it's 3 times back and forth to the moon in an average lifespan of an Arctic tern. And the part that blows me away from that bird is that it only sees nighttime during its migration. So in breeding and its wintering site, it's just in full daylight all the time.
Exactly.
You think they'd get, cataracts or something from so much, solar radiation. And, with this, we love seabirds. So we're always putting in the plug for the seabirds.
Yeah, we wax
albatrosses. Some of those albatrosses. Now, okay, we know that they migrate, move, long distances without flapping. But one of the thing that I really think is Olympic in a sense is that they will take 7, maybe 10 years, depending on the albatross, to mature, and they don't touch land. Imagine never touching land for a decade.
Yeah.
Until they go back to the nesting colony, like a big old wandering albatross.
Right.
You've just been on the water and in the air for 10 years. And then you go back. What does it feel like when you first get your feet like on land again? You're like, oh, like,
yeah,
it hurts.
I mean, I remember what it was like for me after being on the Farallon Islands for 5 months or whatever. And I came back to Anchorage and I was like, my God, this place looks like Tokyo. It's insane. But talking about the 10 years or so it takes for some of these albatross, isn't that one of the things that helped to save the short-tailed albatross? Right, was the breeding island had that massive volcanic eruption, and there were enough of these youngsters floating around out at sea that they kind of gradually were able to come back, and now have been really increasing for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, we looked it up the other day. The official figures is something like there's like 5,000 or 6,000 now, which is a lot more than I thought.
Yeah, I remember seeing a photo.
Given that they were 0, essentially.
I don't know. How many have you seen out there in California? I've still never seen one. It's like one of my few albatrosses I need to see. I want to see one of those chocolate youngsters with the big pink bill.
Yeah, I've seen one, so it's still pretty rare. And there's one that's hanging around California right now. Actually, was seen just outside of the Golden Gate Bridge on Saturday. They're hanging around fishing boats, so the fishing fleet is like reporting it, and the birders haven't seen that bird up here. They saw it last in Santa Cruz last week, but I was out with Peter Pyle, who's longtime San Francisco birder and also well known for his work on molds and so forth. And he was saying that it might be only the 3rd record for San Francisco, this individual that just landed there. So it's still pretty rare, out here. But our hopes of seeing more are really good this year. They've been reported in more this year than any year I can think of. Oregon, I think, had them, and there were other places, not just in California, which really is what you would expect. After this increase in population, there's going to be a point at which we're going to start seeing them more regularly. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
I remember seeing that, and I'm going to have to I have to be there with you when you start seeing them more, because that's
okay.
This is a bird I must see. But I remember seeing about, maybe it was 10 years ago. You probably remember this. There was a photo, I think it was from a fishing vessel. How they have those observers on like the fishing vessels in Alaska and stuff. And I think somebody had like a wide angle shot of a whole bunch of fulmars and seabirds kind of hanging around this fishing vessel. But there was I want to say there was like 2 or 3 or 4 dozen short-tailed albatrosses just kind of sitting around, this thing. And we were all like, my Lord, look at that. That's a lot of short-tailed albatrosses.
That's a lot. Yeah. It's, I look forward to that. And one of the things that is, interesting about them is that the historical records, like way back when they were common and they were a regular part of the West Coast avifauna here, they were inshore. They were not deep water albatrosses, and they were seen pretty close to shore. And in fact, some people suggest that Alcatraz, the island, is named for the albatross, or the old Spanish name for albatross is Alcatraz. And it got transferred to the pelican.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was thinking
pelicans sometimes are known as Alcatraz.
Yeah.
But if you think about the name albatross, Alcatraz, you're like, oh, okay, yeah. It was the actual old name for albatross, and that they might have been there or might have nested there or something. There's all these theories, but we'll see. We'll give them another 50 years. We might have them hanging around close to shore.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Olympics. Yeah, we could go on forever on the bird Olympics.
Yeah. Well, I did mention the Moonbird.
We probably shouldn't.
Yeah, that's probably true. I did want to mention the Moonbird, which is near and dear to,
again, for the moon people. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And this is for the moon people, even though it's kind of really bird related. But the Moonbird is B95, was a Rufa Red Knot that lived to be like 19 or 20 some years. I can't remember exactly, but went back and forth so many times on its migration from Tierra del Fuego area back up to the Arctic, that they started calling it the Moonbird because it had done, so many of these migrations up and down the Americas, and it was routinely spotted there in Delaware a number of years. And of course, those things those Rufa subspecies of red knots are really in trouble now, and it's kind of scary to watch what's happening with them. But there's a great book about this particular B95,
the Moonbird,
which I would recommend.
For those of you who don't know, you're thinking, okay, red knots, I've seen red knots, or what is a Rufa red knot? It's that eastern population, right, that historically would mass in numbers out close to where you live, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Delaware Bay is real good for them. It's a critical migration spot for them.
And they are different, slightly different from other red knots, not just in their migration, but their breeding plumage. That's why they have a different subspecies for them versus the ones we see here on the West Coast are actually a different race subspecies. So they're not Rufa red knots. That's what part of what makes them special too, is it's a really long migration. Ours winter here. They don't head to, South America like those guys. So, and I've heard that this year their numbers plummeted compared to the last few years. Yeah. Rufa red knot.
It was a pretty dismal count of them this year at the census sites along the Delaware Bay. It was the worst count yet. After there'd been a little uptick the last few years. So we'll hope for better things there, for sure.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
But, gosh, the Arctic, it's just sort of like, it's warm up there this year, real warm. So you wonder if that's good or bad for nesting shorebirds. Does it provide more water? Does it provide more insects? It's possible. We can't assume that a change like that's always negative, but part of the problem is the food that they're getting on the migration is sort of declining.
Yes.
Right, in Delaware Bay and stuff. So even if they're doing well up there, maybe they can't.
Yeah. If they can't get there, then that's an issue.
Right. Yeah. I like red knots.
Oh, they're such cool birds. Yeah, they're kind of perfectly medium in like build, they're so medium, and much when they're not red and really beautiful, they're just like gray, Yeah. But they look like they're built to cover some ground,
They're sort of like a Cocker Spaniel, right? They're not big and they're not small, right? Like they're kind of like intermediate.
Very
dogs.
Medium. Yeah. Medium length build, medium length body, they're just a medium shorebird.
Medium shorebird.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know where the name knot comes from? Do you know that one?
Is it not from, excuse the, obvious, not even attempted pun, but is it not like they make time? It's not like a nautical knot. Yeah.
No, it's I guess he was a king or Canute. I think what was he, like a Norwegian ruler of some type, but he dressed in red. That was his outfit.
Wow.
So red knot. So in fact, it's kind of They should have just called it knot instead of, well, actually it was just the knot in England, I think, knot. And then we put the red in front of it just to make it more obvious.
Right. Because we like clarity over here compared to those Brits.
Yeah. Canute. There you go.
Yeah. Well, if you start calling it Canute, I think that's gonna create some issues for folks. But
well, if that basketball team can be pronounced the Celtics, I feel like I can pronounce it Canute.
I like that you called it that basketball team, because that's about how we refer to them here in Philadelphia as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's and when you were talking about blue jays being your favorite birds, and I was thinking, oh, is he going to go into some sports thing like the Blue Jays or something? No, but I guess no.
No, indeed. And the Toronto Blue Jays did actually crush my heart into very small pieces in 1993 when Joe Carter hit that walk-off home run to end the Phillies World Series bid.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but
yeah,
I grew up in Toronto, so I know the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they had 2 seasons in a row of all-star teams, and the Phillies were on the receiving end of the second one, so it was tough. It's tough times.
I think all baseball teams should be renamed for birds, right? Because there's already 3, so you're pretty well like a good way there, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So you could have the Philadelphia Canutes,
Philadelphia Vireos.
Yeah, that'd be better than the cream cheeses.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Geothlypis, maybe.
Whoa! Yeah. Now you're what is that, Latin?
Yeah, Alvaro. By the way, I have a new big word for you. I got a new big word. I got a message from our buddy Doug Gotchfeld. He said he's been enjoying the show, and we've gotten some wonderful feedback from folks. Right?
Oh yeah,
some real nice feedback. Doug said that he wanted a new big word that he could use in a tour context. And the other day I was writing about owls, and I came across the word oclophobia. This was a new word for me. Oclophobia. Are you familiar with it?
Oclophobia. Fear of oclos.
Fear of owls. Fear of owls.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I was writing about the Jamaican owl, which, they call the patu, and the patu is like kind of seen as, an evil spirit, a duppy, as they call it there in Jamaica. And a lot of people, if they see it, they get scared or they try to shoo it away or worse. And I just happened to, in my research, realize that oclophobia means fear of owls. So that was new.
And all tour guides have a fear of owls because, they're the hardest birds often to find, and people always want to see them. And it's like, we don't, you're always like, we don't have to go owling tonight if everybody's too tired. And they're like, oh no, we want to go owling. Oh man, you're like,
wow, now we got to go look for a screech owl, but some kind of screech owl that looks exactly like every other screech owl around here.
Right. And then you're saying, well, hearing it's actually pretty good because that's how you identify it. If you see it, no, we want to see it. Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Or, so I remember I had some good luck on tours with Flammulated owl. And later I was told wow, yeah, that was just super lucky because most times you just don't get much of anything on Flammulated owls. We even found one in the day once with our old friend Ned Brinkley, who keeps coming up in our minds often, Ned. But yeah, found one in the day up in Mexico. Man. A wintering bird. And then, at night, trying to find, in Arizona, trying to find them, we had some good luck. But I gathered that I should never try to find a Flammulated owl again because all my luck is probably used up.
Yeah, no, that's...
you only get a few.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do have oclophobia myself.
Yeah, that's understandable.
What is fear of showing people owls? What's that called?
That will require a little more research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oclovigiophobia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. You definitely studied your Latin and your Greek. It's impressive.
Yeah, it's all Greek to me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can tell you, I have banded actually more flammulated owls than I've seen in the wild, and I can tell you that their babies have extremely stinky poop, really stinky poop.
Wow.
Some of the I mean, I've smelled some poop here and there, and this is next level. It really is. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's an
Do you
important
think
piece
that
of
that's
information.
unusual, or do all owls have stinky poop?
That I could not say.
Yeah. So
maybe it's they eat all
we'll
those
get other
moths.
owl benders.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Moth eaters.
Yeah.
And cycling back to your point about people reaching out and letting us know that they've liked this show, we've only been live, sort of downloadable for a week now. I mean, it's been Sunday to Sunday. So yesterday was a week, and I'm kind of like shocked at the fact, in fact, I should be really nervous now because actually people are actually listening. I thought it was just going to be, our parents and friends, but actual real live people are liking this. And I'm so grateful to all of you out there that have enjoyed it. And hopefully we can keep on doing fun things and talking our nonsense about birds. But yeah, what's your thought, George? How have you
No, I mean,
all this in?
It's been just wonderful to, talking birds is one of my favorite things. Hanging out with you and Molly is always a good time. The fact that other people are enjoying it too so far is really humbling and thrilling at the same time. And I sure hope people will email us with questions or just reach out to us, however. But Molly's keeping an eye on our inbox and lets us know as stuff comes in and is responding to folks. But we could really, we want to hear from people and let us know what you think. If, surely we will talk out of turn every now and then and say stuff wrong or present information incorrectly. Interested to hear about that, of course.
Or offend the moon people.
Yes, yeah. And we apologize in advance to the moon people. Let's try to, cover that right now. And but yeah, we want to hear your questions, your comments. All feedback is welcome. But thanks everybody for listening so far. But yeah,
and I guess in some of these, depending on how you listen to this, some places you can also put in a little review or a little star rating, and that always helps get it up higher up in the suggestions for other people who might be interested in birds and have never heard of this podcast or know about us. It'd be great to get them to click on those stars.
Yes, exactly. I recommend the 5-star variety of those reviews, but of course I could be deemed biased. So no, but
that's right.
We probably should wrap up here, Al. We're running up against it, but any final thoughts for folks?
Final thoughts. Let's see. You mentioned that migration is starting up, especially for newer birders, who might think that, the migration really is in the fall, right? So September, October, migration starts super early. And some birds are actually starting to move south in late June. Some of the shorebirds, like Wilson's phalaropes and some of the yellowlegs.
Willets, yeah.
By now, we have a lot of migrations going on, everybody. So don't miss August. August is actually one of the best times to be looking for birds. It's the shorebirds are out. The warblers start kind of moving around by late August. There's going to be a lot of warbler migration in the east. You guys have most of the yellow warblers actually moved through.
Some of them are moving right
early.
now. Tom Reed said he had like 50 down there at Cape May the other day. It's like 50 in one morning, in late July. It's like they're moving. So don't think, summer doldrums and all this kind of stuff that you hear birders talk about. It's happening right now. So get out there. August was always my favorite birding month when I lived in Ontario in the east. I just love that late August with shorebirds and
warblers kind of start, really kind of moving through. It was one of my favorite times. You still could wear shorts. It was still warm, yeah. And here, the seabirds are started up. The warblers are starting to sort of like, poke around in places where they usually aren't seeing them. And so it's also starting up here in the West, although we have a much longer migration, slowpoke migration compared to the Eastern fast, awesome numbers kind of migration that you guys get out there.
Yeah, I saw the other day a friend of mine, Guatemala, had like Louisiana water thrush back on winter territory there already. So some of them are like gone already. But yeah.
Yeah. A friend in Buenos Aires in Argentina actually just sent me pictures of white rum sandpipers, adults, so it's like they're already down there.
Yeah.
Like, talk about Olympians.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Oh, hey, you know what? That reminds me. We have a listener who's on the Falkland Islands. So, Ryan Irvine, who's a birder from Scotland, who I met some years ago, he's living on the Falkland Islands, and he's told us he's listening to this podcast. And we started wondering who or where is the farthest locality where somebody might be listening to us. That's the winner so far, but we're really looking forward to hearing from people on, I know, Rapa Nui. What's the furthest, New Zealand?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, let us know.
Yeah.
Write us a note.
Definitely want to hear about that. Definitely. Yeah, well, we should put a fork in it here, but thanks everybody for listening. As Al says, get out, get after it, go see some birds. They're moving right now. There's always something to see, and they will reward you for your efforts. So thanks everybody. Thanks Molly Brown for producing, and thanks Al, and have a good week.
Yeah, thanks everyone.